From 8 points behind to 4 points clear, the Premier League trophy is days away from returning to the Etihad. Not only that, but the treble is also in sight. Welcome back to Inmr, where in today's podcast I'll be talking about if Man City can really win the treble and what went wrong for Mikel Arteta's Arsenal side in such a short space of time. Starting off with the Arsenal versus Brighton result this weekend. Obviously Brighton beat them 3-0, confirmed pretty much that the league was lost for them. They were played off the park. Weaknesses for Arsenal, their finishing was so poor. From 14 shots, only 2 of them were on target. They also committed a lot of individual errors, such as the Trossard mistake. He played a really poor misplaced pass that eventually allowed Undav to go ahead and score. In terms of Brighton's strengths, we were effective on the wing. We play well through the middle anyway, but on the wings we were very impressive. Also, totally the opposite to Arsenal. Brighton's finishing was very strong. The change in dynamic in such a short space of time is unbelievable, to be honest. 29 matches in, Arsenal were 8 points clear, and now we're 35 matches in and Man City are 4 points clear. In my opinion, the league has now been bottled, but we want to look at why that's happened. Personally, I think it's due to a lack of experience and not being able to handle the pressure. The average age of the Arsenal squad is 24.4, so obviously they're all very young. Not many players that have experienced lots of pressure in their time, so it's going to be difficult for them to hold on to a lead throughout a season that's almost 40 games long. The Saliba injury set them back massively. There was no strong backup. Rob Holding didn't play well as a replacement. Kiviar's been better, but not as good as Saliba. So that lack of depth has obviously affected them, not just in centre-back where Saliba's been missing, but also on the wing. Trossard's sort of the only technically backup winger that's very good. Reece Nelson comes on now and again, but he's not Premier League quality in a top side like that. If you look at City, they've got wingers coming out their ears, they've got midfielders coming out their ears. There's so much depth, and as I said in the previous podcast, you could make a top 4 squad with Manchester City's backup players, whereas you can't say that you could do that with an Arsenal squad. They lacked depth in defence, in attack and in the midfield. And I think in one game in particular, I think it was the Southampton game, when you see the midfield not linking up well, it was Xhaka, Ødegaard and Partey normally link up really well together. However, for that game, I think Fabio Vieira was playing instead and they just didn't click. That midfield didn't gel at all, and that affected the entire side and they just couldn't play their football. They can't handle the pressure. The games where it didn't matter, they play really well, but when they know it's a must-win, they just can't do it. You've seen that in the Liverpool, West Ham and Southampton draw, and of course, most recently, the Brighton defeat. Liverpool and West Ham game, 2-0 up, got complacent, dropped 2 points in each game. Southampton shocked them. It was quite different to those previous 2 fixtures. Arsenal were just very lucky in the final 15, bucked their ideas up and managed to salvage a point. Brighton defeat, I think it had been a long time coming for Arsenal, to be honest. They were played off the park, they lacked quality, and they just couldn't handle De Zerbi's style of play. So in terms of the treble for Man City, it's looking more and more likely. They had a very classy and composed victory against Everton on the weekend. City have players that step up, lead by example and don't shy away from the pressure, which is exactly what Arsenal are lacking, as we spoke about. For example, İlkay Gündoğan, 2 goals and an assist, absolutely unplayable. Passing was on point, finishing was on point. At the moment, everything he's touching turns to gold. He's been unreal in this sort of late run-in at the end of the season, and Arsenal don't have those sorts of players. They don't have players that can just switch on and be in tremendous form during high pressure times, whereas City have those players that fight for their club and can handle it in these stressful situations. In terms of the Champions League, Man City have obviously got Real Madrid coming up. In the first leg they drew 1-1, Kevin De Bruyne scoring a great goal. Rudiger handled Haaland well, but I think in the second leg he'll feel as though he's got a point to prove and step up to the plate. One thing I'm looking forward to in that second leg is Kyle Walker versus Vinicius Jr. battling it out again. It was really good in the first leg. Vinicius Jr. obviously got the goal, but Kyle Walker did actually play very well. Vinicius Jr. is going to be a key player for Madrid. As I said, played well, got a goal in the first leg, so he'll need to do that again for his side if they want to stop City winning the treble. One player I think, obviously we're going to look out for him, but I think now more than ever he's got a point to prove. It's Haaland's time to shine. He couldn't get going in the first leg. He'll know he needs to be better in the second leg. You can see when he plays that he holds himself to a very high standard, and he knows that he needs to exceed that standard all the time. He's had 12 goals in 9 UCL matches this season. It's inevitable that he's going to score. It will happen. It's just a matter of when and if he can take those chances when he gets them, which he usually does. And then finally, to finish off the treble, it would be the game against Manchester United in the FA Cup final. City cruised to the final as expected. Very easy win against Sheffield United in the semi-finals. United, on the other hand, I was at the game. I thought they were rubbish. Without the Brighton bias coming in, they did play bad football. They did well. They waited and absorbed the pressure, which was obviously Ten Hag's aim. They attacked in the last 5 minutes of each half or half of extra time to try and steal a goal. Brighton were unlucky. We lacked a clinical striker in Evan Ferguson. He was out injured. But that tactic won't work against City. They've got too much quality and will destroy United if they carry the same game plan into the final. I don't think if they do carry that same game plan, it probably won't be the most exciting of finals. City will just run riot over them. And personally, I do think Brighton would have given them a better game. We play a more exciting style of play. And I think we would have given them a game, whereas United might sit back and just accept that they're not the better side. Whereas Brighton always, I think, you saw it against Arsenal. We're not the better side, but they fought and they respect the opponents, but they don't respect them too much in the sense that they just let them play football around them, which I think United do quite a lot. I'm not too sure how United are going to approach this game because, like I said, they can't do what they did against Brighton, but they're going to have to work very hard in order to prevent City from winning this cup final. Individual player performances have been a key part of City's season. Players like Erling Haaland have really stole the show. He's got 36 goals in the Prem, obviously now a record breaker. To put that into perspective, he's scored 40% of City's Premier League goals this season, and in terms of the Champions League, he scored 45% of their goals. He's taken the league by storm. I think sometimes we forget how young he is. He's only 22. He's definitely going to go on to be one of the very best. Individuals can give that team an extra push, because if they do win the Champions League, it's the first time in City's history they've done it, and individual has given them that extra push. However, as a team as well, they've been unbelievable. They work so well together. No matter who's playing, everyone gets an opportunity, and if you don't like the amount of opportunity you're getting or the lack of, you go out. As well as Erling Haaland, I know we've spoken about him previously, but Ilkay Gundogan, his form during the run-in, 3 games in May have been Leeds, Madrid and Everton. In those 3 games, he's had 4 goals and 2 assists. As we mentioned before, he shows up when needed. He's always consistent, but he has these unreal performances towards the end of the season when the team need a player to take hold of the game. The heat maps here show those 3 games where he's not just getting goals and setting them up. He's actually playing well for the entire 90 minutes. He gets everywhere, gives his all for Guardiola, and in my opinion, he's an incredibly underrated midfielder. Of course, Arsenal fans aren't going to be feeling pleased with how the season has ended out. However, they would have taken second at the start of the season. They've just longed for UCL football for years, and they are going to get that. But I guess it's just the way that they've come second. They were 8 points clear. They've bottled games against simple opposition. They've let the pressure get to them, which, as a top side, as a league winning side, you can't let that happen. They spent 93% of the season in first place, but couldn't make it over the last few hurdles. In terms of a push next season and how they're going to improve this in further years, some experience for the younger players is going to be good for them. Feeling what they're going to feel over the next few weeks, knowing that they were so close and couldn't quite get there, is actually good for them, because they're going to want it even more in the coming seasons. And also bringing in some new players that maybe already have that experience would help as well. The title is going to come in a few years when the finishing touches are complete, and I think for Arsenal fans, they need to see it as more, not as a failure, but a lesson learned, and that the title will come. There's just a few little bits that need to be brushed over in order for that to happen. So in terms of transfers in the summer that could potentially help them push for the Prem next season, they have been linked with Declan Rice and Caicedo. Arsenal have cleared Arteta to splash the cash on them both. It's looking to be a £200 million double deal in the summer. They're going to have to fight off rival teams who are also searching for their signatures. They could potentially get outbid, but obviously if Arsenal have allowed Arteta to go and spend this money, he may potentially be able to push it a little bit further. I can't see him getting both. I see him more likely getting Rice. Caicedo did want to leave to go to Arsenal in the winter, but it didn't quite happen. I do now think that ship has sailed and that it's going to be Rice that comes in instead. But if they were both to happen, picture in a midfield of Caicedo, Rice and Ødegaard is certainly going to be a step in the right direction. Arsenal have also identified Moussa Diaby as their most serious attacking option for the summer. That's according to the Daily Mail. Croatian defender Sutalo is also being tracked. Arteta knows that he needs to add depth to get that step further next season, so Dynamo Zagreb defender is going to be perfect for that. Arsenal have also held exploratory conversations regarding Chelsea midfielder Mason Mount. That is from the Daily Telegraph. Liverpool are linked with him more heavily, and I do think that he will end up going to Liverpool. Finally, Arsenal are on alert after Ferland Mendy was told he can leave Real Madrid this summer. That's according to the Daily Mirror. Added to that defence once again. It looks like it could potentially be a busy window for Arsenal. Of course, with lots of players coming in to improve the squad, it means that some players are going to be making way. Granit Xhaka is linked with a move back to Germany, with Bayern Leverkusen being the favourites. Newcastle are confident of securing a £30 million deal for Arsenal left-back Kieran Tierney this summer, according to The Sun. Necessary, I think, if they're looking to bring in Ferland Mendy, he's going to have to go. And of course, since Zinchenko got signed, Tierney has actually only started 5 games. Reiss Nelson has been a big one this season. It's been coming. He's rejected various contracts. Arsenal would like to extend it, but Nelson wants to move away to play more football. AC Milan linked, as well as various Premier League clubs. However, there are some academy graduates who Arsenal are ready to cash in on. Homegrown talents such as Florian Balogun and Emil Smith-Rowe have an uncertain future at the Emirates, as Arsenal prepare to freshen up their squad for the Champions League. Overall then, I do think that it's over for Arsenal. Unfortunately, they couldn't quite get there this season, and it does look like City are going to go on to win the Premier League. FA Cup as well is looking likely, with them being the favourites against rivals Man United. And the big game tonight is obviously against Real Madrid. If they win that, I can't see why they couldn't win the treble. They'd be favourites against either of the Milan sides, so it's going to be very interesting to see if they can make history and win the treble. That is where I'm going to end the podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back soon with another one.